I'm here with my good friend Stacey Wheeler, who we've been good friends since elementary school, and we've had a lot of history together. And for my birthday, I usually at this time would be covering a golf charity event for teen suicide prevention and awareness. And that golf charity event isn't happening. And I wanted to have a conversation. I'm already getting emotional because when we were 21, sorry, when we were 21, your brother took his life.
Yeah.
And I think right now it's a really critical time to talk about this.
He was 20.
He was 20 years old.
We were.
And tell us about him.
Yeah. So we grew up in Northern California, suburbia. We had a good home. We had good parents. We went to good schools. Everything, we checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
We noticed probably in his early teens that he started, acting out, not really being himself, kind of withdrawn. I was closer to him than my parents, so I'm like, oh, he's just smoking pot today, or, whatever. He's just not loving high school. But it got to the point where the big opioid epidemic kind of started, and he got diagnosed bipolar. So he went and saw a doctor, and they gave him all this, lithium, bipolar medications, and he basically took them to get high, or he sold them, and did other drugs to kind of numb his pain and dealing with being bipolar as a teenager, I can imagine is just, and you don't have the mental health resources that we do now. So I think that was really hard on him. Everyone I talked to say he was just this charismatic guy. He always had a smile on his face. So I think it was hard for his friends to even comprehend what he was going through, because he always put a smile on and told jokes, and the ladies loved him. He was 6'2" and dark hair, big green eyes. So once the drug use and the drinking got so bad, he had been in and out of the hospital for overdoses. My parents said, you can live here if you're going to school, but there's no drugs or alcohol in the house. And my dad came home one day, and there was a bottle of empty wine or beer, I don't remember. But they decided together that, he couldn't live there anymore. And they told him that tomorrow you have to move out. So I think in the midst of having mental illness, having no resources, he had a job, not a great one, but where's he going to go? What's he going to do? So he called me that night, and he said, I'm going to go away for a while. I'm going to go be a bum. I'll probably sleep on some park benches and couch surf. And I was 23. I was kind of sick of all the things that promises and broken promises and lies that he would feed us. So I said, okay, well, do you need any money? Or completely oblivious to the fact that was going to be the night that he took his life. So I got a call about 5 o'clock in the morning from my dad, and he had said Brandon shot himself. And I'm not laughing because I think it's funny, but 3 months earlier he shot himself in the hand, on purpose.
Really?
So what happened? And he just kept saying he shot himself. So I said, where are you? And they were at the county hospital. And by the time I had gotten there, he had died.
Yeah. And having to deal with that pain, and knowing what you knew then, now, you could never go back, right? And say oh, I would have done this instead of that. But what can you say if you do have a struggling family member right now, at home, or what advice can you tell other people that might be concerned about a loved one?
Looking back, there were so many signs that we just thought were, oh, he's just a teenager. Oh, he's got a little drug problem. But I mean, he had been hospitalized multiple times for drug overdoses. And I remember one time the doctor saying, like, my mom asked him, well, what did he take? And the doctor looked at my mom and said, what didn't he take? So he was messing around with tons of things. And to me, that should have been a really big red flag, And too, he was 20. He's an adult. You can't force him to go to rehab. But I think that if we had maybe pushed, hindsight's 2020, you never know. But if we had maybe pushed more for it, pushed him to get the help he needed instead of maybe just cutting things off from him, I think that would have been a little bit more helpful.
Yeah. And I know that I have, my sister was incarcerated for 10 years and she had friends that, I know that that population struggles as well. If you've ever been incarcerated, that is something that we just want to reach out and tell everybody that you do matter. You are important. And, the organization that I would usually be covering the golf charity event for is called the Matthew Silverman Memorial Foundation. And they provide resources. And I've learned a lot about, the misconceptions about not talking about it, because if you talk about it, then people will want to do it. And that's just not true. There are people that care, and we are going to show a PSA and a number that you can call if that is if that's something that you or your family member is struggling with. Now, Stacey, you're also an RN, and so I want to touch upon, what you're going through in one, what's going on in the hospital. Two, healthcare providers right now are in a tremendous amount of stress, and so we also want to reach out to healthcare providers. What is going on with your hospital and your friends in that respect?
So our hospital, I work at a pretty large community hospital, and I work in a step-down unit. We do a lot of cardiac surgery. So when this all started happening, it was like, oh, well, we'll probably just get cut because they're not going to be doing any elective surgeries. Well, kind of the opposite has happened, and they're switching our unit from cardiovascular surgery to COVID-19 ICU. So I'm being cross-trained as an ICU nurse now. I was just told I'll get 4 shifts, which is terrifying, but at least I'm getting the training and not just getting thrown in there. But my coworkers are great. I mean, with everybody quarantining and being so isolated, for me to actually go to work and work closely with people and be able to touch people, whether it's patients or coworkers, and like, we've all been exposed to each other, hug and we pray, and we're just like, we will get through this. Like, that's our motto, we will get through this, and we will. The scary thing is that it changes so much every day, because we're learning so much about this virus and how it's operating, and at what point does somebody need to be on a ventilator? At what point do we just say, go home and isolate? It's a very gray area. So the stress of not knowing, hey, if this patient's positive for a couple days, but you're still exposed to them, and then how are they going to, go south really fast, or are they just going to have mild symptoms and recover? So, and then, a lot of us have kids going home. Do I, live in the guest house, or do I go stay in a hotel, or, what do I do to risk, exposing the people that I love? So it's just, every day is so different. And I think the constant change is very anxiety provoking. And so learning how to deal with that has been pretty challenging. But I work for a very supportive organization, and we have chaplains. We have resources at work. We do Zoom room, like check-ins, spiritual check-ins that are offered. So those are really cool.
Nice.
But just, I work, I do CPR with these people. We save lives together. We watch people die together. Like, it's a very tight-knit bunch of people, even if you're not close on a personal level, these people are here for you, and you can talk to them.
Yeah. And what can we do as, you know, as the public to help support you right now?
I think the isolating has really, I think we're not seeing in California what they're seeing in New York, because we acted fast and we're adhering to it. You know, staying away from the grocery store if you don't need to be there, staying away from, you know, play structures, staying away from places where this virus can just live. I mean, I know people have to go out, but you don't have to go out to Walmart to go shopping for bathing suits. Like, if
Right.
you need things, go. And then, you know, what I've been doing with some of my friends is like, hey, I'm going to Chick-fil-A. I know it's dinner time. You guys want me to pick you up dinner? And so it's like less people leaving the house.
Right.
And we're going to get to the point where it's going to, you know, we're going to be able to be social again.
Yeah.
We just have to really kind of adhere to what they're recommending right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you could take one thing so far that you've learned from this whole situation, what personally, emotionally, spiritually, what has that been?
I'm such a hugger. Like, I need hugs, and I'm not getting the hugs quota that I normally get. And that makes me sad. It makes me just, you feel kind of helpless. Like, you see people and you're just like, elbow bump, you know, it's like, no, I just want to love on you and hug you. And it's hard. It's very socially isolating.
Yeah.
I've chosen to not see my grandma because she's 85. And I know that's hard on her because she lives alone. But I call her, check on her, but I never realized how kind of social of a being I was until this happened.
Yeah. Well, you know, Eric, my boyfriend, when he gives me a hug in the morning, that's like my favorite part of the day.
Yeah.
And you know, his sister also took her own life too, about 11 years ago now, 10 and a half years ago now. And she was very smart, PhD, you know, had everything going for her. And, you know, it's not just teenagers, it's adults too. You know, if you are in a situation where you're feeling that lack of connection, you know, it will get better. You just have to go through it. One of my favorite quotes is Winston Churchill: if you're going through hell, keep going.
Shortly after my brother died, I joined a support group through the Contra Costa Crisis Center. It was very beneficial to just know that there were other people going through what I was going through and that I wasn't alone. Because suicide is a different death. It's not a regular death. It's different than murder. It's different than dying of old age. It's just different. So there was a speaker one day. His name was Hines, and some people have probably heard of him. He is a man who jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived. And he tells his story, and it's on YouTube. You can look it up. But he's just walking across the bridge, and he said, in my mind, I just said, if one person would just look at me and smile or ask me if I was okay, I'm not going to do it. And he did that for hours, and nobody stopped to check on him. And he said the minute his feet left that bridge, he knew he had made a mistake. So listening to that story was very, very powerful for me.
Yeah, and there are also some really good speakers that I've seen through the years through the Matthew Silverman Memorial Foundation as well, that are just very inspiring, because when you do attempt to take your life and you survive, it's like it's a miracle. And I think when those people tell their stories, it's just very powerful. And I think that that's really great advice as well, is just to go look and hear other people's stories, because, you know, now a lot of those people are helping a lot of people just by talking about it. And we want to hear from you guys. You know, is this something that you're struggling with? Is this something that, you know, is this a real thing for you in your family's life? Because I wanted to take my birthday as an opportunity to talk about this. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you for getting on the call. And we're going to leave you guys with this PSA. All right, I love you.
We named him Matthew Sean, and he was the center of our attention. He was good at a lot of things. I mean, quite a remarkable young man, but he wasn't open with us about the depth of his depression. He decided to take his own life. Suicide was something that had never touched our family, and it never crossed my mind that it was a possibility. It seemed to me the best thing I could do was to try to honor his memory and turn the tragedy into something positive. So we created our foundation in Matt's name and in memory, and the foundation is designed to save lives. What I'd like to see is that Matt's name stands for the heroic effort to address suicide